So as you saw, I've got it all sanded down, had the rust wire brushed off as much as possible, and now I've got it in epoxy primer. Unfortunately, I've now noticed there's a pinhole just above the filler neck, which kind of explains why the original coating was peeling off around that. I thought it was just a crap pipe fitment, but there is a pinhole, unfortunately. So that brings us on to a bit more of a challenge. So I'm going to have to figure out how to solve that. We might try and bodge it up with a self-tapper and maybe a bit of solder to help it seal. And if it's worse than that, I'm going to need to figure out how to weld a tank. And of course, it stores petrol, so it sounds a bit risky. So the first thing to do is wire brush around this area and see what we've got to work with. Hopefully the metal's still pretty solid despite that pinhole. So the holes ended up being quite a bit bigger than expected, so I think the idea of using a self-tapper to seal it up is just not going to work, unfortunately. So the next step is to use a copper patch and solder it on. We haven't really got any sheets of copper kicking around anywhere, but we did have some spare copper pipe. So we're going to cut a bit of copper pipe, hammer it flat, fashion it into a patch, and then we'll have a go at soldering. So we're going to use flux to help the solder wick behind the patch, which should give us a better seal, quite liberally.
Going on and off then? That'll do.
It's not the prettiest patch in the world, but it's got to be better than that epoxy stuff. Plenty of solder under there anyway.
Right, so I've given the area a bit of sand, put some panel wipe on it to clean it off. Now I'm just going to stick a bit more epoxy primer on it.
So our soldered on patch has got to be a lot more permanent than that resin putty stuff you see people fixing tanks with quite a lot. And also I used the boroscope to look inside the tank and look at the fix from the inside, and it does look like it's sealed and the solder's got right in there, which is great. So the next step now is to get it keyed up ready for its colour coat, and I think I've changed my mind on black. I think I'm going to go silver. Don't know why, just fancy it.
Right, so that's the pipework cleaned up with brake cleaner. They came up quite well, to be honest. Some of these Jubilee clips were absolutely shot, so I've decided to swap them out for stainless. Probably a bit overkill, but they certainly look nice. So originally on the fuel tank there was these three foam rectangles. It's quite a high density foam. One was wrapped around one of the fuel lines and the other two were just on top of the tank. I think they touch against the car and just isolate the tank from resonating or making any noises. I think that's the reason anyway. Maybe somebody can put me right in the comments about that. Either way, I'd quite like to replace this because obviously they're knackered. So I've got myself some high density foam. I'm going to cut the same shapes out, and that's what I'm going to try and use to replace them with. The brackets that came off the tank are in pretty crappy condition. They're all rusty. You can see they were originally yellow passivated, plated. I think the next thing to do is to get these cleaned up, potentially blasted, and see how they come up.
Right, first things first, I think I'm going to throw this fuel pump and the level sensor back in. I'm a bit worried about them getting broken floating around, and also it'll block crap dropping into the tank. Pretty sure that's the right way around anyway, but I'm sure we'll find out. I've put a bit of silicone oil on the O-rings, which I am reusing, but they seem fine. And finally we'll put the pipe on that connects to the fuel filler neck. There we go. Nice and easy. Right, so that's the tape on. It's just brown parcel tape, but to be honest, when I was dismantling it, I'm pretty sure BMW themselves were using brown parcel tape for the same job. So the thing with the foam pads that I've now cut, they go in strange places. I've had a look at a few different tanks online, and it seems like they all seem to differ a little bit. So I guess with mine, I'm just going to put them back where they were when I found them. And they were stuck, and you can see the remains of where they had been, and just hope for the best and hope that's the right place. I zinc nickel plated all the hardware for this tank. It's time to throw these plates back on to the actually just reinforced where the tank mounts to the chassis. last one, and this one goes upside down too. That'll do. Right, so this is all the mounting hardware for the tank. I won't really be needing that again until I'm actually fitting it back on the car. These are actually brackets for the heat shields. So other than that, I think we're about done. It's gone well. Right, so that's the fuel tank done. I'm actually really pleased with how that came out. It was quite a lot of work, especially after we spotted the pinhole around the filler neck. But the repair looks good. The soldering seems to have worked very well. Quite happy to put this tank back on the car now, and I'm sure it'll give me many more years of service. If you enjoy this kind of thing, please give us a like and maybe even subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.